Developing right now on Morning News Now, Gaza on edge after another night of relentless airstrikes. This morning, the Israeli military releasing this video saying more than 100 targets were hit in the Hamas-run enclave overnight. Meanwhile, more Israeli tanks have arrived at the Gaza border ahead of a highly anticipated all-out ground assault as aid trucks full of much-needed supplies wait to cross into Gaza as well. That aid meant to help hundreds of thousands of Gazans now gathered at the Rafah border crossing with Egypt after being forced from their homes. And here in the U.S., a rare primetime Oval Office address by President Biden as he makes his case for a $100 billion funding package, much of it for Israel.
We cannot give up on peace. We cannot give up on a two-state solution. Israel and Palestinians equally deserve to live in safety, dignity, and peace.
Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. Joe is off this morning. We're, of course, going to begin with the latest on the Israel-Hamas war. Our team is tracking the newest developments from the Middle East to here at home in Washington. We are going to get started with Jay Gray in Tel Aviv and Aaron Gilchrist in Washington. Good morning to the both of you. Jay, I'll start with you there on the ground. So Israel's defense minister met with troops and told them specifically they will be seeing Gaza soon, quote, from the inside. This is after 2 weeks of airstrikes pummeling Gaza. Does it seem as though this ground offensive that has been anticipated, we've been watching for as these troops amass, is actually going to begin sometime soon? Do we know what it could look like?
Yeah, there are some key indicators, and I can tell you we just learned in the last few minutes that now Israeli Defense Forces are carrying out some raids in areas along the fence line with Gaza, and do believe that there are still Hamas operatives on the Israeli side. So they are clearing the path there with those raids. It would appear for those ground troops to move in. We know that overnight into the day today, the IDF has said that the pace of attacks in the region in Gaza is more than they've seen in decade, and that those forces on the ground are, and these are their words, preparing for the next phase. That next phase would look like thousands of troops on the ground moving in along with all of the equipment that's been amassed there, a lot of tanks that would roll initially into the area. And we're talking about combat in the streets now of Gaza. That's something that a lot of people have been very concerned about over the last few days. But it does, again, appear like that ground assault is getting much closer at this time.
Aaron, let's bring you in here again from Washington, because last night we saw this rare primetime address. The president, only for the second time, speaking from the Oval Office, this time about the ongoing war, of course, as well as what's going on in Ukraine, multiple wars. What kind of warning did the president have for Israel ahead of this potential military escalation that Jay just laid out?
Well, Savannah, this speech was largely geared toward the American people. The president trying to explain why he felt the Congress needs to support his efforts to support both Ukraine and Israel. There was also going to be some money in this funding request for efforts in Taiwan as well. But the president took the time during this speech to also talk about the conflict that is growing, as Jay just laid out, in Israel and in Gaza. And he wanted to make sure that he referenced 9/11, as he has in previous speeches over the last 2 weeks. He referenced the United States sort of going into that conflict. You'll remember that term shock and awe was something that we heard going into the invasion of Iraq in 2003. The president wanted to caution the Israelis about going into this conflict with Hamas full of rage. I want you to hear a little bit of what the president said last night.
The United States remains committed to the Palestinian people's right to dignity and to self-determination. As hard as it is, we cannot give up on peace. We cannot give up on a two-state solution. When America experienced the hell of 9/11, we felt enraged as well. While we sought and got justice, we made mistakes. So I caution the government of Israel not to be blinded by rage.
At the same time, Savannah, the president is asking, as you noted, for more than $100 billion in funding for these conflicts that are happening in other parts of the world. And during his speech, he tried to make the case to Americans by saying that American leadership is what holds the world together. Savannah?
Jay, let's talk about this bombing that we're seeing in southern Gaza. The reason that's key, of course, is that's the area that Israel told Palestinians that live in the north. That's where that military presence is amassing at the border. They told those Palestinians to flee to the south. What is the latest on the situation inside the besieged strip, as so many people are just taking refuge in this particular part? And what about that aid that is supposed to finally be heading in today?
Yeah, and you speak of people taking refuge. 500 or so were in a Greek Orthodox church that was hit by an airstrike. And we know at least 18 have died as a result of that. There is believed to be dozens more covered in the rubble from that strike that happened just this morning. What the IDF has said is that they're going to continue their attacks wherever Hamas may be. And they are continuing, like we talked about earlier, airstrikes at an unprecedented pace, hundreds overnight, including this church that was damaged and a church that was a temporary home for all of those who had made that trip to the south. As for the aid, right now it's going nowhere. We know that Israel and Egypt have agreed to allow the aid to flow. Work continues to be done on the roadways on the Gaza side of the Rafah border crossing with Egypt after some damage from those bombing runs. The UN Secretary General today, speaking about the issue, said it needs to get in. It's, and I'm quoting here, the difference between life and death for so many people in Gaza. 2 million who are waiting and have been waiting for more than 2 weeks for some of these deliveries: food, water, medicine. They could roll tomorrow, according to those on the ground, but at this point, we haven't seen UN administrators or anyone there to watch over that process.
All right, Jay Gray, Aaron Gilchrist, thank you very much for kicking us off this hour. Staying with our coverage of this story, nightly news anchor Lester Holt spoke with Americans inside Gaza and Israel who have been deeply impacted by the ongoing violence.
American Emily Rauschenberger grew up in the U.S. She and her husband, who's Palestinian, and their children are inside Gaza. They were visiting family when the Israeli retaliation strikes began against Hamas.
During the days that we have no drinkable tap water, we have to go find it outside in other sources. Bread is very hard to get. Whenever it gets dark, you stay inside completely and you hear bombings near and far. So it's just been kind of a fight to survive, really.
Has the level of bombing decreased at all?
No. The night before, we saw 5 apartments targeted and bombed in the neighborhood we live in, and we don't know who might be next, really.
Do you want to get out of Gaza?
Yes, I do. Would like very much with my kids to go.
Her message for Israel:
there needs to be a ceasefire. This is just a humanitarian disaster.
At the same time, what would your message be to Hamas? What could Hamas do to ease tensions and make this safer?
I don't have a good answer to that question. I haven't been able to follow any news much at all since we don't have regular internet. You know, for both sides, there has to be a ceasefire and aid and help to the people who are suffering most under this bombardment.
But suffering doesn't recognize borders, misery, or depth of loss. From inside Israel, what Abby Owen, also an American, wants is accountability.
For my priority, the first thing that has to happen before any aid goes in is that the hostages are released and come home to their families.
The Israeli military upped the number of those believed held hostage by Hamas in Gaza to 203. That number does not include Owen's aunt Carmela and Carmela's granddaughter Noya, who, kidnapped by Hamas terrorists, have now been confirmed dead. Their bodies found inside Gaza. 3 other family members are still missing, including 12-year-old Erez, captured on video being led away during the attacks.
We don't want any other family to have their hearts shattered the way that ours are. We don't want any more suffering. We know right now that Hamas is worse than ISIS.
Carmela was 80. Noya was 12. That's Noya's mom singing to her, posted just last month. And tell me about Noya.
She had autism. She was sensitive to light and sound and noise. And she loved Harry Potter. She dressed up like Harry Potter. She and her grandmother were deeply connected. And I think If there's any solace right now, it's to know that they are together.
Do you wish for the government to punish Hamas further?
I think there's a lot of talk about a proportionate response or proportional response. And no Israeli believes that that exists. Not one of us wants to go kill babies or rape women or murder people or take people from their families. But we want to live without the fear of terrorists crossing our border and creating what we're experiencing in the last 2 weeks.
Our thanks to Lester Holt for that report. Well, for more, we are joined by Lieutenant Colonel Sarit Zahavi. She's the founder and CEO of ALMA, an organization specializing in research and analysis of Israel's security challenges on the northern border. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you so much for being here. So we are definitely going to talk about that northern border. But first, if we could just start with this fact, Israel's defense minister met with IDF troops Thursday and told them they would soon see Gaza from the inside, something we've been talking about this morning. Do you see signs that Israel is really preparing to move ahead with this ground offensive at some point soon?
I can't know that because all I can tell is that we can see the army prepared on both borders and stretched on both borders, the north and the south. And I must say, watching your previous article, that it's really very important before going to any ceasefire or humanitarian aid, that the hostages will be released. These hostages also are part of the humanitarian crisis, just like the Gazians. And one more thing, the player here that should be held responsible for all the suffering inside Gaza, and I watched your photos and images from Gaza, and it's truly make me sad, and I truly identified with all the horrors there. But the player that should be held accountable is Hamas. Hamas is using his own people as human shield after he slaughtered my people. So all of us should unite together to make sure that this will not happen again. This is not September 11. This is the Nazis. And we don't have a choice like Afghanistan or Iraq or Vietnam. We don't have a choice. This is on our other side of the border. This is feet away from our people.
Also, within the borders of Gaza are these hostages, more than 200 people believed held by Hamas. In your opinion, just walk us through how that potentially complicates things in terms of the military options available to the IDF in order to not jeopardize their safety? Or does that seem like, at this point, losing some of the hostages may be what happens? Is the IDF prepared for that in order to be able to accomplish their military goals?
I believe that our IDF prepared for that. You know, we know of this kind of scenario and this kind of intention by terrorist organization, like from a decade ago, also from the north. So I believe IDF understands the situation and the complexity of that. Having said that, you all understand that we cannot live with the monster. And that's why IDF is preparing to fight Hamas and to eliminate its military capabilities. I believe that if there is specific information of where the hostages are, so this is a place where we will act in a different way, and IDF will find a way to do whatever it can. It doesn't mean that hostages will not get killed. Hamas is doing everything it can to put them at risk. We are all aware of that.
I mentioned that you specialize in analyzing the security of the northern border of Israel, which, of course, has also been a concern as we've seen some military action from Hezbollah. How concerned are you about the war spreading on that front, and what are you seeing right now?
I'm still extremely concerned. I can tell you of my personal view that I left the north with my little girl and I begged the rest of the family to come down south. When we trying to analyze the attacks that we experienced up north in the past 2 weeks, so we see that in the past week there are more attacks, even though the escalation is not at upscale. It's not war, but it's a war zone in a sense that more than 60,000 people that are living next to the border were evacuated and still being evacuated. It means that there is no normality. Children are not going to school. It means that we hear all the military activity, and it means that it's not safe for anybody to be next to the border because every day something happens, whether it's anti-tanks or mortars or rockets, or even once UAVs or infiltration of terrorists into the communities. And sincerely, I don't know how we are going to get back to normal unless we will fight Hezbollah, because this is a true threat while these communities are based at the fence of the border. That's why I've said it's not Afghanistan, it's not Iraq. This is here, just on the other side. I live 12 kilometers from the Israeli-Lebanese border, and we had conversation of how we protect the shelter, how we block the door, what would we do, how we go out of the window if we hear terrorists outside. I don't want to raise my kids with these kind of conversations anymore.
Lieutenant Colonel Sarit Zahabi, thank you very much, both just for a little slice of what life on the ground is like right now, but also your expertise. Thank you for joining us. Well, as the fighting continues, airstrikes are pushing Gaza's second largest hospital, which was already overflowing with patients, to the brink. Gaza journalist Akram Al-Sadri has the latest.
It's already the 13th day of the ongoing escalation. According to the UN OCHA, Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, around 1/4 of the Gaza North has already been destroyed by the ongoing bombardment. In the Gaza South also, the bombardment continues, and the destruction of the houses and the death toll increases by the minute. According to some of the information, the Egyptian authorities have already started leveling the land that was affected by the bombardment and started also working and coordinating for the sake of allowing the entry of the goods of the 20 containers into the Gaza Strip. In the meantime, also, the Gaza Ministry of Health has been preparing itself to receive those goods. It looks like it is a medical aid that is allowed to enter the Gaza Strip, and it looks like that the organization that coordinated for the entry of those goods is the International Committee of the Red Cross. In the meanwhile, as I said, the bombardment continues and the hospitals continue receiving very large number of people injured. In Nasser Hospital, they have been receiving people who are injured from the morning, and they still struggle for the sake of catering or for the sake of accommodating the increased number of people injured. On my way here, I was seeing how they were evacuating some patients with less severe injuries, they discharging them to their homes so that they can take in the other injured people who might be in a much severe case and in need of a more dire need to the medical care. So the health system is still suffering and struggling, and there is still very challenging situation ahead of them if the medical aid has not entered Gaza today or tomorrow.
Akram Al-Sadri, thank you so much. Stay safe. Well, Americans looking to flee the ongoing war say they are experiencing different levels of support from the Biden administration. Those stranded in Gaza say they are in a state of limbo. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra has the details.
I'm happy to be back and I'm safe.
In recent days, Americans have been fleeing Israel by the thousands.
I have a lot of friends that are fighting, so I'm worried. It's right to be with my family right now.
The U.S. effort to get Americans back home has been complex, through the skies, chartering flights, and even over water. For those who made the sea journey to Cyprus, it was a vital lifeline.
We're having a hard time getting out any other way.
3,000 Americans reported finding their own ways out of Israel. For many, that meant flights through those commercial airlines still flying. Major carriers like American, Delta, and United suspending flights in and out of the country. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis also launched an initiative to fly American citizens directly from Israel to Tampa. But not every American in Israel wants to come home. So far, only about half the seats offered on U.S. chartered journeys have been filled. Only 1,500 of the more than 5,000 offered airline seats were used by U.S. citizens and their families, according to the State Department. And that massive Royal Caribbean cruise ship chartered by the U.S. government set sail with only 150 passengers out of 2,200 spots. And for the Americans stuck in the Gaza Strip, it's been a vastly different reality.
Imagine having to have all your life in a very small suitcase that hardly has enough supplies for you.
Amid Israel's total siege of the territory, including a naval blockade, there's only one way out, the Rafah border, crossing with Egypt, which has been closed since October 10th. An American aid worker trying to escape tells NBC News about her state of limbo.
It hasn't been the safe haven that we were promised. There's bombing, there is no water, there's no electricity, there is no fuel, hardly any food.
The State Department says roughly 500 to 600 U.S. citizens were in the Gaza Strip before the Hamas attacks on October 7th. It says so far they've received requests for help from 350 and their families. The government has told Americans to wait near the Rafah crossing because they think if it does open to evacuees, that window might be brief. But for Palestinian Americans back in the U.S., they say the government's efforts have fallen short.
What we're hearing from the State Department, the messages are, at the end, good luck. Good luck is what we're telling Americans?
Our thanks to Marissa Parra for that report. Well, the war between Israel and Hamas is dividing students and faculty on college campuses across the country. This morning, students at some schools are facing serious consequences for taking a stance on the war. NBC News correspondent Jake Ward explains.
Free speech is, of course, a closely held belief in the United States, and especially on university campuses, where debates and protests are a long part of the history of being there. But the conflict in Israel and Gaza seems to have pushed many students and some faculty to the breaking point.
Palestine will be free.
Opposing rallies at Columbia, a die-in at Harvard. The latest protests are part of a long tradition of free speech on campus. But some law students are now finding their words can affect their future. Law firm Winston & Straw announced they rescinded a job offer to a top NYU law student this month after blaming Israel for the violence on October 7th. And law firm Davis Polk pulled 3 more offered to Harvard students for signing a similar statement. Now, a tenured professor has written an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal entitled, "Do Not Hire My Anti-Semitic Students."
Free speech does not mean there's no consequences for free speech.
Stephen Solomon says he considers any justification of the Hamas attacks to be anti-Semitic hate speech.
This is a professional setting. These are people who are to be trained as lawyers. They should not be going out as lawyers if they're advocating the murder and justifying the murder of innocent people.
One Berkeley student group mentioned in the op-ed characterized the October 7th attacks as resistance to apartheid. In a statement to NBC News, the group calls the article a smear that wrongly conflates activism with anti-Semitism. Some students unaffiliated with the group say they are concerned about the op-ed's precedent.
I think regardless of which side you support, I don't know that professors should be encouraging it to dissuade you from potential employment.
Kenneth Stern runs Bard College's Center for the Study of Hate.
When you start drawing lines of saying what speech is permitted and what speech isn't, that's a horrible thing in society in general.
A debate over free speech and whether a student's public stance on a controversial topic should cripple a career before it even begins.
Now, Professor Solomon says that several law firms have come forward to applaud him for what he wrote in the Wall Street Journal and have told him that they will be acting on his recommendations. Meanwhile, fellow faculty members at UC Berkeley say that they disapprove of his position. One of them told me that she considers his use of his own free speech rights as a tenured faculty member to be inappropriate, considering that he is encouraging employers to not hire students when they exercise their free speech. Back to you.
Jake Ward, great report. Thank you very much. Well, much more to come here on Morning News Now. When we come back, stunning new developments in the Georgia election interference case. Donald Trump's former lawyer pleading guilty 1 day before her trial was set to begin. More on the surprise plea deal and how it could impact the former president's case. Plus, the congressional chaos continues ahead of another House Speaker vote this morning. We will bring you the latest and more after the break. Welcome back. Sidney Powell, once a lawyer for former President Trump, unexpectedly pleaded guilty Thursday to charges stemming from Mr. Trump's efforts to overturn his defeat in Georgia. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has more on the stunning turn in this case.
For a time, Sidney Powell was one of the former president's fiercest defenders, making wild, unsupported claims about voter fraud in the last election. But now, Sidney Powell has flipped against her former client, and it's unclear what she'll say about him.
Once an attorney, then a co-defendant, now a cooperator.
How do you plead to the 6 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties?
Guilty.
Sidney Powell, one of 19 charged alongside the former president in a sprawling conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia, pleading guilty to 6 reduced charges in court.
Do you agree that there is a sufficient factual basis, that there are enough facts that support this plea of guilty?
I do.
A remarkable about-face for one of Mr. Trump's fiercest defenders.
I'm going to release the Kraken.
often pushing baseless conspiracy theories the last election was stolen.
President Trump won by a landslide. We are going to prove it.
Instead, she's now admitted to helping organize the breach of sensitive voting equipment in a rural elections office, agreeing as part of the new plea deal with prosecutors to write an apology letter to the people of Georgia, hand over documents to investigators, and come clean about all that she knows about her former client as Mr. Trump continues to fight the charges against him.
Here to testify truthfully against any and all co-defendants in this matter at any upcoming proceedings.
Powell's testimony likely an asset for the Fulton County DA, who's now managed to secure 2 guilty pleas so far.
The former president's criminal defense attorney in Georgia is dismissing this plea as somehow problematic, saying it's actually favorable to his defense strategy, although it's unclear how that will work. Meantime, one of the other co-defendants in the case, Ken Chesbrough, is still scheduled to go to trial on Monday. Back to you.
All right, Laura Jarrett, thank you so much. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos. Danny, good morning. So as we just heard, Trump's legal team says this helps his legal strategy, which I suppose isn't a surprise. But how are they going to try to make this work in the former president's favor?
In all likelihood, they might point to Sidney Powell's empty chair and try to foist liability onto her. But in all likelihood, this turn of events is good for the state. It's good for prosecutors. Anytime you have a defendant come in and plead guilty, and that's pursuant to a cooperation agreement, you can plan on that co-defendant coming in and saying virtually everything and anything the state wants them to say about some of the other co-defendants. So I'm not entirely sure why the Trump team sees this as a benefit. Almost in every situation, if one of your co-defendants rushes in to plead guilty, and this is a pretty favorable deal for Sidney Powell, it means that she has to give the state some benefit for the bargain, and that benefit is going to be testimony.
How worried would you be in the Trump legal team's shoes about that potential testimony?
Worried, because not only Sidney Powell is the second defendant to come in and plead guilty, and both defendants have gotten a pretty good arrangement, a pretty good deal on their sentence. So they're going to have to give over everything the state wants in terms of testimony. Now, criminal defense attorneys like me often argue that that deal gives them an incentive to stretch the truth and maybe even exaggerate and possibly, God forbid, even lie. But on the whole, that's mostly my defense attorney bias. Generally speaking, cooperating witnesses are great for the state. I do wonder if whether or not the state of Georgia or the Fulton County prosecutor felt that they needed Sidney Powell, and that's why they gave her such a favorable deal.
Yeah, let's dig in a little bit more on the favorable deal. So we've been discussing testifying, and a little bit of this was in Laura's piece, but here are the other details. 6 years probation, $6,000 fine, $2,700 in restitution, and then writing that apology letter to the citizens of Georgia. I mean, how appropriate, maybe, is the word, do you think that deal is? And also kind of give us a little bit more info on this letter she'll have to write.
Yeah, the letter thing is strange. I mean, these kinds of things are very county and state specific, and maybe this is something that the Fulton County DA thought would be appropriate, but typically you don't see demands that a defendant write letters. Maybe the defendant offered it. Maybe her team said, hey, we're willing to write a letter. Does that mean anything to you? And that might have sweetened the pot. But on the whole, the 6 months of probation is key. I can't tell you how often defendants say, look, I'm willing to plead guilty. Anything, though, that my line in the sand is that I don't want to spend any time in jail. And so far, we've seen 2 defendants plead and get that deal. But again, it raises the question, what does the state need from them that they were willing to offer that deal? Why not just go to trial if they felt that good about their case?
Danny Ceballos, as always, we appreciate you. Thank you. Well, it is another busy day on Capitol Hill as the House of Representatives is set to vote once again for House Speaker. Congressman Jim Jordan has remained in the running for Speaker, despite now twice failing to get the votes he needs from fellow Republicans. Meanwhile, temporary Speaker Congressman Patrick McHenry says he will reject any efforts to expand his power without an explicit vote from the House to do so. He told reporters yesterday his job is to get Jordan the speakership.
My goal is to take our speaker nominee and elect that person Speaker of the House. I'm focused on electing Jim Jordan, who is our speaker nominee and Speaker of the House. That's my goal. That's my focus.
Let's bring in NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin with the latest. Hey, Julie, good morning. So we're expected to hear from Jim Jordan before that vote this morning, we think, and then just tell us, how is this shaping up? How's the vote looking?
Yes, Savannah, good morning. In less than half an hour, we expect to hear from Jim Jordan in a press conference in the Capitol, using essentially his bully pulpit to convince some of those holdouts to come around and vote for him ahead of a potential third ballot, which we expect Jordan may not succeed in. Look, according to an aide close to Jordan, he's not expected to drop out at this point. We know that conservatives, members of the hard right, have been trying to rally some of the no votes to get around Jim Jordan and support his candidacy. Take a listen to what he said yesterday.
We made the pitch to members on the resolution as a way to lower the temperature and get back to work. We decided that wasn't where we're going to go. I'm still running for speaker, and I plan to go to the floor and get the votes and win this race. But I want to go talk with a few of my colleagues. Particularly, I want to talk with the 20 individuals who voted against me.
So he's talking about a resolution proposed by Dave Joyce, a Republican from Ohio, to expand McHenry's powers, the Speaker pro tem. That's not going anywhere for now, though.
Yeah, so tell us more about those efforts and why there is resistance from GOP members when, in the meantime, nothing's getting done.
Yeah, so let's talk about what this will do. And I caught up with Patrick McHenry last night about this. He wants a vote to expand his powers because, remember, as Speaker pro tem, it's unprecedented. He does not have the power to do anything. He can't pass any legislation on the floor. And he told us yesterday that he refuses to do anything like that without a formal vote to expand his powers. The thing is, though, some of those hard right members behind Jordan don't want to give up just yet. There's been threats. There's been messages sent to lawmakers who oppose Jordan. There's been conservative media trying to get them to rally around Jordan. This is a guy who's been a thorn in the side of leadership before. He's the chair of the Judiciary Committee. He's leading those impeachment proceedings against President Biden for possible connections to his son. This is somebody who's been a pinnacle of the hard right. His supporters, his allies, don't want him to give up just yet and lose some of that fame.
Julie, before I let you go, I want to switch gears off of this speaker race to ask you about the race for Senate in California. We learned yesterday that LaFonza Butler is not going to run for a full term in Congress next year. She was, of course, appointed to fill Dianne Feinstein's seat. What is Butler saying about this decision?
Yeah, this is someone who's been a longtime advocate, the top of Emily's List, an organization that elects pro-choice Democratic women. She released a statement yesterday saying, in part, quote, "I've spent the past 16 years pursuing my clarity, what kind of life I want to have, what kind of service I want to offer, and what kind of voice I want to bring forward." She said after considering those questions, she decided not to run for Senate in the upcoming election. Now, there are others who are, of course, interested for the job, including Barbara Lee, a congresswoman from California, including Adam Schiff, another congressman from California, and Katie Porter. These are all members of Congress who've been eyeing the Senate seat for a long time. I think this is welcome news for them. But for Butler's part, she's been appointed to this seat by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and she decided this is not the best use of her voice, in her words.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you very much. Well, now we have an update on a story we reported here. The U.S. soldier who fled into North Korea before being expelled out of the country has been charged with desertion. This is according to documents obtained by NBC News. Travis King was taken into U.S. custody last month. He faces several charges, including that one of desertion, which can carry a prison sentence of up to 3 years. He's also accused of assaulting fellow soldiers and soliciting child pornography. King's release into custody came 2 months after he ran across the border into North Korea, which is close to where he was stationed. Let's stay on international news now. The main suspect in the killing of Haiti's president more than 2 years ago is now under arrest. NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lavanga has that and other international headlines for us. Hey, Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. That's right. Key suspect and former government official Joseph Félix Badillo was arrested after more than 2 years on the run. National police say they captured Badillo in the suburbs of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. Now, Badillo worked for Haiti's anti-corruption unit in the Ministry of Justice. He was fired in 2021 for alleged ethics violations weeks before the president was shot and killed at his home. Several other arrests have been made in connection with the assassination, including 11 men now in U.S. custody. Now let's travel over to France, where investigators are saying a string of bomb threats that forced the evacuation of several airports could all be a prank. About 18 people have been detained in the last 72 hours in connection to the fake bomb threats, and most of those arrested are minors. Under French law, prank calls can be punished with up to 3 years imprisonment and as much as a $47,000 fine. We end our tour with a celebratory moment in an ongoing fight for justice. The European Union Parliament awarded their annual Sakharov Prize of Freedom and thought to Masha Amini. 22-year-old Amini died in police custody last year, sparking global protests against Iran's conservative and government system. EU Parliament President Roberta Metsola said in a statement, quote, "The European Parliament proudly stands with the brave and defiant who continue to fight for equality, dignity and freedom in Iran." Savannah?
All right, Claudio, thank you so much. Well, coming up on Morning News Now, an island vacation takes a tragic turn. New developments in the search for an American teacher gone missing in Puerto Rico.
And more rain is on the way for the Northeast while the West deals with record-breaking heat. We'll talk about the forecast for the weekend ahead coming up.
We are back with new details on a developing story. Last Wednesday, Indiana teacher Amanda Webster went missing while on vacation in Puerto Rico. Now investigators are looking into a grim new discovery on the island. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has the details.
Caribbean vacation turned devastating mystery.
It's pretty earth-shattering.
Authorities in Puerto Rico are working to confirm whether a body search crews found face down in the river in this rocky wooded area Saturday is that of missing Indiana teacher Amanda Webster. Forensic officials telling NBC News a family member flew to Puerto Rico to give DNA. They've also pulled dental records and fingerprints. Puerto Rican police say the body is that of a white woman, but officials say it's so badly decomposed they wouldn't let Webster's family members see it. They're working to determine how the woman died. Meanwhile, Webster's loved ones tell our Indianapolis affiliate WTHR the 44-year-old art teacher was vacationing alone, sending videos like this one. She was reported missing Wednesday of last week after police say she failed to check out of her Airbnb on time, leaving her bags and rental car. For days, friends clung to hope.
She had told them she was going hiking there, and she never came back.
I'm definitely upset, shaken.
NBC News reached out to Webster's family. A man who answered the phone declined to comment.
A lot of people are going to be feeling this loss.
A community back home desperate for answers and bracing for the worst.
And while they wait for those answers, Webster's school district back in Indianapolis released a statement calling her an amazing teacher and a champion for every student. And they add they're providing counseling and bereavement support for all students and staff. Back to you.
All right, Maggie Vespa, thank you so much. Well, the good news is it's Friday. The bad news is much of the Northeast is going to have a wet weekend. Let's get your forecast with Angie Lassman. Good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. The good news for everybody else besides the Northeast is that it's going to be pretty nice and quite sunny for most of the rest of the country. But yes, it's the rain that's really going to get a lot of folks' attention from the Northeast stretching down to the mid-Atlantic. We could even see a couple of these kind of stronger thunderstorms into parts of the Southeast. So a heads up for that through the day today. But that storm system already has been impacting folks across the Midwest and the Great Lakes for a couple of days now. It's on the move and taking the rain with it. You can kind of see some of this rain that's sitting offshore. We've got this line of showers that are slowly working their way into portions of Pennsylvania. You can see Virginia, West Virginia, and Virginia all going to be dealing with some rain through the day today. And eventually, folks in the New England area are also going to get in on this action. So here's the system that we're watching that rain is along, but that's the coastal low that we're also going to see kind of enhance this rainfall for folks across the Northeast here, not just today, but into tomorrow and even Sunday as well. These two kind of combine, leaving us with very unsettled conditions, specifically the farther north you go into New England. I will say, if you're in places like New York or Washington, D.C. for your Saturday afternoon and into your evening hours, you will see some quieter conditions, and I say less rainy is how I really should put it. It'll still be quite cloudy and even windy at times, but you'll get a break from the rain for the later part of your Saturday. Now, it doesn't stay that way because on Sunday we kind of get those showers wrapping back around as that system exits, and many from Boston up into portions of Maine will still be dealing with the heavy rain. And the bad news is, honestly, behind it, it's going to be blustery and quite chilly behind that system as it moves out. So we'll need the jackets, the extra layers for sure as we get the rain out of the picture. Now, there's the areas that I want you to be most concerned about when it comes to the flooding. We'll see saturated grounds dealing with more rounds of really heavy rain. So just something to note for places like Burlington, up into Caribou, Portland, all included in that, with anywhere from about 1 inch to 2 inches, maybe isolated amounts up to 3 inches, and potentially some spots in New England picking up 4 inches of rain as we get through the weekend. So the flooding will be there, the windy conditions will be there, and then we'll just be chilly after that. So everyone complaining about the rain.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of blustery. Specific and not nice. All right, Angie Lassman, thank you so much. No problem. Well, coming up, the tipping point. Service workers struggling to make ends meet as prices go up and their tips go down. After the break, how a so-called sub-minimum wage law could be adding to their challenges. This is Morning News Now. We're back now with some financial headlines, and you might have to break out your wallet because Elon Musk's X is about to roll out some new charges. NBC's Pippa Stevens has more on that and some other money news for us. Hey, Pippa, good morning.
Hey, Savannah. Well, the social media service formerly known as Twitter will launch 2 new tiers of subscriptions for users. Owner Elon Musk announced the changes today. One tier will be lower cost with all features, but no reduction in ads, while the other is more expensive but has no ads. Meantime, sales of previously owned homes dropped 2% in September from August, according to the National Association of Realtors. Sales were more than 15% lower compared with September of last year. This is the slowest sales pace since October 2010, during the Great Recession, when the market was in the midst of a foreclosure crisis. And United Airline passengers will soon notice changes with the company's boarding process. Starting next week, economy passengers assigned to window seats will board before those with middle and aisle seats. The company says the change could shave 2 minutes off the boarding process. The new procedure is expected to begin on October 26th. Savannah, anything to speed up the boarding process.
So true. So true. All right, Pippa, thank you so much. Well, many employees are struggling to make ends meet thanks to inflation and stagnant wages. And for service workers, there is another hurdle to clear. Fewer people are leaving tips, complicating an already difficult situation for employees. CNBC business producer Emily Lorsch explains.
Hello, ladies. How are you? Sometimes my kids tell me, "Mom, bring me something." I go, okay, not today because Mom not make money today.
Lupe is a server at Cisco's restaurant Bakery and Bar in Austin, Texas. One of many workers around the country who makes the federal minimum wage for tipped workers, which is $2.13 an hour, a rate that's been in place since 1991.
Well, restaurant owners across the country might want to be paying their employees higher wages. Some, like the owner of Cisco's here in Austin, Texas, say they just simply can't afford to do so.
If we were to increase our minimum wage internally, we have to then pass that off to the customer, which then likely probably tips less.
The federal minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. But if you're a tipped worker, it's $2.13 per hour, also referred to as the sub-minimum wage. The difference between the two, $5.12, is called a tip credit. If a worker doesn't receive $5.12 an hour in tips, the employer is responsible for paying them that difference.
Most consumers have no idea that every time you tip in a restaurant in most states, it cuts against the worker's wage rather than being something on top of the wage.
As of 2023, only 7 states have eliminated the sub-minimum wage.
These states actually have the same, or in many cases, higher restaurant industry business growth and tipping averages than the rest of the country.
Minimum wages have become irrelevant because we've had such incredible growth in wages driven by market demand for employees. I would recommend very strongly that with the 9 million job openings that we currently have in the United States, they go to a different job. It's not always the government's job to solve everybody's problems.
It's not as easy as that, and it's certainly easier for me as a white man to get hired.
Let's have a great service.
In 2022, more than 1 million workers made the federal minimum wage of $7.25 or less. This point in time is also an anomaly.
We don't know how long this is going to last. We know the next recession is always on its way.
Economists say what matters most is the overall cost-benefit analysis, and that what the country needs is a slow and steady reform process.
These are real human beings that are going home, dealing with things the same way you are. Ultimately, I really want all of our staff to make as much money as they can. The goal here is to continue to grow, but not have to charge people an arm and a leg to come have a really good meal.
Our thanks to Emily Lorsch for that report. Well, coming up, from the lab to your living room. After the break, we'll introduce you to the neuroscientist behind a popular podcast meant to make science and health more relatable. You're watching Morning News Now. Welcome back. Dr. Andrew Huberman is on a mission to make science more relatable and is getting millions of followers for his podcast, The Huberman Lab. The neuroscientist sat down for his first network interview with Today Show special anchor Maria Shriver to discuss the success of his podcast and the importance of overall health.
Welcome to the Huberman Lab podcast, where we discuss science and science-based tools for everyday life.
If you don't know who Andrew Huberman is, that won't be the case for long. The 47-year-old Stanford University neuroscientist has gained a huge following nearly overnight after launching his now chart-topping podcast amid the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021. Are you surprised at its success?
I am surprised how popular the podcast has become, what alcohol does to your brain and body.
His podcast can run as long as 3 or 4 hours, tackling what some might consider wonky topics like dopamine and neuroplasticity. Huberman cites dense scientific research, but makes it digestible for his many millions of devoted listeners.
It's really about gaining knowledge of how one's body and brain work, and then tapping into the components of our brain that are there from birth, and that if we tap into can really afford us a better well-being.
At the core of his philosophy are what he calls protocols, ways to improve mental and physical health through sunlight exposure, nutrition, exercise, stress control, relationships, and sleep.
I think if people paid attention to these 5 things plus sleep, gosh, I'm certain that everyone would feel so much better. Our mental health and physical health exists on a background of all these fundamental things, and we have gotten very far away from paying attention to these fundamental things. It's really alerted me to the fact that people have a deep interest in feeling better and doing better. They seem to stick around for the science, and they end up learning tools that can help their mental health and physical health.
So do you think it's that they want to understand themselves, that they want to understand their brain, they want to understand this entire machine?
I think people want to understand how they work.
Right.
I think they start to feel a sense of agency, and once they feel a sense of agency and control, then all the other stuff seems less scary.
Some are critical of his mixing of business and science. His podcasts are supported by ads for supplements and products he endorses. But Huberman says his goal is to give the masses access to zero or low-cost tools to improve their mental and physical health.
What does the research really say? What works the first time and every time? It's not about purchasing anything.
While Huberman says his audience is divided evenly between men and women, some are crediting him with men increasingly prioritizing their mental and physical health.
With men, sometimes the lure has to be a little different. You have to say, hey, this is going to make you a better negotiator. This is going to make you more effective in finding and building a great relationship. It's going to make you more vigorous. You know, if guys are paying better attention to what they eat, how they exercise, their mental health, certainly, I feel like they and society are just going to benefit.
So you think you're changing that for men, that all of a sudden men, perhaps your age and or younger, that it's permissible to talk about their emotional health or their mental health in a way that 5 years ago it wasn't?
I like to think that we are. It's not about becoming more emotional. It's about becoming more functional. One should be able to feel their feelings without their feelings hijacking their behavior or feeling as if you're falling into a pit of despair. They can make choices.
Our thanks to Maria Shriver for that report, while Huberman went on to say he wants people to know that they have agency over their lives and their health. He says he's giving away the tools people need to optimize their lives, but ultimately it's up to all of us to take responsibility for our well-being, which is, of course, easier said than done. But some good tips there. Our thanks to Maria Shriver for that. Well, that does it for this hour of Morning News Now, but don't go anywhere. The news continues right now. Just about the top of the hour now on this Friday morning, we begin with a powerful call to action from the Oval Office overnight. President Biden, in a rare primetime address, making his case to the American people that aid for both Israel and Ukraine is not only critical for global security, it's also vital for safety and stability here at home.
That's why tomorrow I'm going to send to Congress an urgent budget request to fund America's national security needs, to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine. Help us keep American troops out of harm's way. Help us build a world that is safer, more peaceful, more prosperous for our children and grandchildren.
It's a multi-billion-dollar package that's expected to head straight into a frozen and divided Congress, with the House still speakerless after Republicans once again failed to hand Congressman Jim Jordan the gavel. Meanwhile, overseas, early morning violence in Gaza as health officials there report 22 people were killed after another round of bombings struck a handful of homes in southern Gaza just hours ago. It comes as a humanitarian crisis plays out in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, with thousands desperately waiting for aid to cross over the Egyptian border. The UN now calling for an immediate ceasefire to get that aid to those who need it most. It is all playing out as the world awaits Israel's long-anticipated potential ground assault on an already battered territory. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for joining us on a Friday. Joe is off today. We're going to begin with President Biden's Oval Office address with NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez. Hi, Gabe. Good morning.
Hey, Savannah. Good morning. In just his second formal Oval Office address, the president tried to link the wars in Israel and Ukraine, pleading with Americans to be a beacon to the world. The urgent speech coming just hours after the Pentagon says a U.S. warship shot down missiles potentially headed towards Israel. Facing escalating wars in Israel and Ukraine, a solemn President Biden in a rare Oval Office address, making a direct appeal to the American people in prime time.
I know these conflicts can seem far away, and it's natural to ask, why does this matter to America?
The president arguing that helping Israel in its fight against Hamas and Ukraine in its war against Russia is vital to U.S. national security.
Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy.
So today, the president is sending Congress a request for roughly $100 billion in military and humanitarian support, largely for Ukraine and Israel. But Congress is paralyzed with no House Speaker, so it's not clear when lawmakers will be able to approve the money.
We can't let petty, partisan, angry politics get in the way of our responsibility as a great nation. We cannot and will not let terrorists like Hamas and tyrants like Putin win. I refuse to let that happen.
The address coming just hours after the president's whirlwind trip to Israel and amid growing outrage across the Arab world over that deadly hospital blast in Gaza.
I'm heartbroken by the tragic loss of Palestinian life, including the explosion at the hospital in Gaza, which was not done by the Israelis. We mourn every innocent life lost.
The Biden administration scrambling to prevent a wider war in the region. The U.S. for the first time shooting down missiles and drones the Pentagon says were fired from Yemen, possibly in the direction of Israel by Iran-backed Houthi forces. Syrian militias have also targeted American troops this week in Iraq and Syria, while Hezbollah has intensified attacks on Israeli troops from Lebanon.
History has taught us that when terrorists don't pay a price for their terror, when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction.
And breaking overnight, we've just learned from a senior defense official that there was a rocket attack on U.S. forces stationed in Baghdad around the time of the president's speech. 2 rockets fired, 1 was intercepted, the other hit an empty storage facility. No casualties, Savannah.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you very much. Well, now let's get the latest from on the ground in Israel, where Richard Engel has the very latest and a warning some scenes in this report might be distressing to viewers.
We are in the West Bank city of Ramallah, and people here are protesting against what Israel is carrying out, its reprisal attacks in the Gaza Strip. People here with these green flags, they are Hamas supporters. They are calling for more attacks against Israel. And anger here and across the Middle East is growing ahead of a possible Israeli ground invasion into Gaza.
Israel is signaling its long-anticipated ground offensive into Gaza could be coming.
Israel's defense minister visiting troops and telling them they'll be seeing Gaza soon from the inside. Israel has called up around 360,000 troops, mostly reservists, for the ground offensive, expected to focus on northern Gaza, where Hamas militants broke into Israel, killing 1,400 Israelis and kidnapping more than 200 people. The Israeli military is already attacking Gaza from the air with unprecedented force, flattening entire neighborhoods. The health ministry in Gaza, which is run by Hamas, says around 4,000 Palestinians have been killed so far. A ground assault would be much more deadly for Gazans, risky for Israeli soldiers, and could tip the region into a wider war, which is already expanding. Anger against Israel and the United States is spreading across the Muslim world. Demonstrations throughout the region today. Our crew in Gaza filmed at a hospital after what multiple witnesses say was an Israeli strike on a house where families were sheltering in southern Gaza, where Israel told Palestinians to go for safety. And overnight, Gaza's small Christian community says it too came under attack when a church where Christians were sheltering was hit. The Israeli military says it's investigating both incidents. Pain is growing on both sides of this conflict. NBC's former Israel-based correspondent Martin Fletcher revealing overnight his relatives, Americans who were visiting their grandmother in Israel, are among the hostages.
I just found out today that two of my wife's family are among the hostages.
I'm so sorry.
So, we know that from what we've found out about Hamas, that they were told to kill the difficult ones and to use the rest as human shields. So this is a very personal. They were last seen, their hands tied, being dragged away by the Hamas terrorists.
These demonstrators are marching toward Israeli troops on the edge of Ramallah. So in the next couple of hours, we could see clashes here. And the Israeli military just made what could be a significant announcement, saying that in their estimation, most of the hostages taken by Hamas are still alive.
Richard Engel, thank you very much. Well, let's discuss the humanitarian situation inside Gaza with Chris Hanger. He's a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross. Chris, thank you very much for joining us again. Now, we continue to see these horrific images coming out of Gaza. So tell us, what are you hearing? I know you have teams on the ground inside Gaza. What are they saying about the conditions there and their ability to do their work?
Thanks for having me. And the fighting is ongoing. We see the images. The human misery is ongoing inside Gaza. And what we see unfolding is really a humanitarian tragedy, because right now the big problem, the big challenge that we have is that no aid is getting in. We have teams on the ground inside Gaza. We have been there for decades. We're doing everything that we can together with our partners, but more needs to be done. So right now, really the blockage and the really important thing that needs to happen is that humanitarian aid gets in, such as medical supplies. We hear reports that doctors are operating 24/7. They don't even know if their loved ones are still alive. And so they really need a respite and support. And that's why the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, also has deployed a surgical team. We've deployed trucks and humanitarian aid, but this needs to be able to enter so we can help people on the ground who are suffering immensely from the ongoing fighting.
Yeah, there's also those surgical teams that are waiting at the border as well to get in. You mentioned doctors. So with no aid getting in, has your organization, since you're so close to the situation, been told anything about why that's happening at this point, why the border has not been opened yet? When we heard Israel say we're okay with it, we've heard that President Biden spoke with Egyptian leadership. Why hasn't this happened yet?
There's, of course, negotiations ongoing. What I can tell you is right now there's no aid that's coming in, while by the minute the humanitarian situation is getting worse. So obviously we're in contact with all parties that have influence over the situation, over opening the border so that aid gets in. But right now, by the minute, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is getting worse. So hospitals are on the verge of collapse. You have to remember this. And this is something that's unacceptable. So humanitarian aid needs to be allowed in. And that's a priority for us. That's a priority for our team. And that's why we do everything that we can on all levels within the organization to unblock this and to help people inside Gaza.
Chris, it's looking likely that this Israeli ground assault could happen soon as we continue to see these troops amass and hear some language from the IDF that sounds like it could be imminent. How worried are your teams inside Gaza about a military escalation? What kind of impact do they think that could have on their work?
Extremely worried. If this conflict further escalates, what will happen inside Gaza, you have to remember it's the most densely populated area on Earth with over 2 million people living there. They have no place to go. So what will happen, this will turn into an urban warfare scenario. And this is extremely difficult, dangerous for civilians that have nowhere to go, that have nowhere to hide. So we are obviously, as the organization that works in conflict zones, extremely worried what's going to happen to the civilians, to the ones that are not fighting, but specifically also those that cannot flee and those that are, for example, wounded, lying in a hospital bed and have nowhere else to go.
So right now we've been waiting for this Rafah border crossing to open, as we've discussed. That's in the south. It's the border with Egypt. Is there concern that if, and it seems like there may be this ground assault that happens in the north, that then maybe that border closes again? Do you think that if there's fighting in the north, aid would still be able to enter from the south?
I mean, what is really, really important is under the Geneva Conventions, under international humanitarian law, it's important. It's essential that humanitarian aid is reaching people. So that's critical and that's unconditional. It has to happen. So regardless of what fighting will take place in the next days and weeks, it is important that the parties to the conflict and whoever has an influence, that they allow aid to enter. And that's something that we see will be a challenge if nothing is moving on any border crossing, that people by the day, by the hour will suffer more, and it's an unacceptable situation for so many people inside Gaza.
Chris Hanger from the International Committee of the Red Cross, thank you very much for joining us. We will continue to check in with you. Well, the ongoing war has increased tensions here at home as well as, of course, abroad. Law enforcement has ramped up security nationwide, and the U.S. State Department has issued a worldwide caution alert to Americans overseas. For more, we're joined by former TSA administrator, former FBI deputy director, and current president of Anderson University, John Pistol. John, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us this morning. So just for viewers at home, I mean, I think a worldwide caution alert, it sounds pretty scary. What's your assessment of the anger across the Middle East, and what exactly does that mean when there's a worldwide caution alert?
Yes, and good morning. It is simply the U.S. government's best attempt to inform U.S. citizens, particularly traveling, wherever they may be going in the world, to exercise caution because of the events that are happening in the Middle East, and even going back and continuing with Russia and Ukraine. How can travelers in the U.S. be best informed as to mitigate the risk that they may be exposing themselves to, perhaps knowingly, but perhaps unwittingly? So, for example, as people travel, if they go to spots that the State Department has an elevated risks assessment for, they should be mindful about public gatherings or iconic U.S. brands, restaurants or hotels or things that might be targeted simply because they are U.S. branded. It may be things such as in airports where before going through security, those public areas, those might be at highest risk because it still makes a significant statement if a terrorist can conduct an attack against a U.S. carrier or a co-branded carrier. So all those things are what are involved in the State Department's opportunities to provide this information. And it's all based on the U.S. intelligence community's best information, the classified briefings that, of course, the president gets, and then, of course, the FBI, Department of Justice, and Homeland Security, Secretary Mayorkas, and TSA Administrator Picassi and their teams, just as I got every day for years, morning intelligence briefs to help inform the actions that could be taken to help mitigate the risk.
So you just laid out some really specific examples, and I appreciate it, especially for Americans when they are abroad, to just keep in mind. What steps would you recommend people take to protect themselves? And would you go so far as to say, kind of think twice about travel right now, or can you do so safely?
Well, sure. And yeah, I would say, of course, the State Department has issued the advisory. There's 20, 21 perhaps countries in the world that they say do not travel to. So the level 4 red, don't travel there. And that's because the State Department can't provide consular services to you if you are in that country. And those are obviously some of the well-known countries in the world. And then the other categories are exercise significant caution or exercise some caution. Every place you travel, you need to be aware of those potential targets, because it's not just Middle East, and it's just not Hamas as a terrorist organization or Palestinians. It's, as we've heard, the inflamed concerns and just the anger that is being expressed because of uncertainties about what has happened, what is going to happen, and who's responsible for all that. So exercise caution wherever they go. Refer to the State Department website, and enroll in. They have a STEP program, a Safe Travel Advisory Program that you can sign up for, have your information in there, and you can check country by country before you travel.
When you see some of these images, like what we saw this week, excuse me, in Beirut, where there was a protest that was somewhat near, it's difficult there to actually get too close to the American embassy, but near and in that area, and the other images we've seen out of the Middle East, how concerned are you? How does it stack up against other things you've seen in your career?
Well, so yeah, I spent 31 years in the government between the FBI and TSA, and this is as concerning as much of what has happened over the last several decades, because of the potential for going beyond the borders in Israel and Gaza and West Bank and everything. And is it a potential for a much greater conflict? And so what does that mean? Sometimes things like this are a trigger for actions being taken elsewhere around the world, and perhaps even here in the U.S. And so that is a significant concern as actions are taken. Again, what can people do to be aware of what the threats might be, what are the risks, and what actions can they take? And so that's what State Department is saying. If you don't have to travel to certain areas, absolutely don't. If you have to travel for whatever reason that may be, then exercise caution and be informed as to what the risks are before you travel.
John Pistol, thank you very much. Your expertise is greatly appreciated and needed this morning.
Thank you.
And Israelis who are trying to come to the United States are now able to apply to travel without a visa. Yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security started taking visa waiver applications from Israeli citizens a month earlier than they had previously planned. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us now with more. Hi, Julia. Good morning. So the Department of Homeland Security had planned to make this change at the end of November anyway, but have now opened the process early. So give us the background here. Before any change was planned, what was the process, and what does this change now mean is essentially going into effect immediately?
Yeah, what we may be seeing here is the impact of our own reporting here at NBC. We reported about 2 weeks ago on Israelis who were stuck inside the country, who had family in the United States who they wanted to reunite with, and they wanted a way to quickly be able to get there. But they couldn't do it because of this program that wasn't supposed to start till November 30th. They said it could just start earlier, which is essentially a fast track to allow Israelis to travel to the United States without requiring a visa. Then they don't have to wait in that long line and be approved for a visa. They could get out quicker. They wanted that date moved up. At that time, DHS said they had no plans to move it up because of computer technicalities, a lot of things that would need to happen to get this website to allow people to apply for a waiver for visas, meaning they wouldn't need a visa. They said that would take a long time. But now they actually have launched it. And as of yesterday, a lot of Israelis can go online, fill out an application so that they don't have to have a visa to travel to the United States. I will remind folks that this is just for a temporary travel visa. This is not to permanently relocate to the United States.
And Julia, let's also talk about people living in Gaza or the West Bank and what any of that looks like in terms of eligibility for visas. Obviously, we know there are several Americans who are within the borders of Gaza who have been unable to even move at this point. But does anything like this apply?
Certainly not for Palestinians, no. In fact, it's even harder for Palestinians to come to the United States as refugees than almost any other nationality in the world. They can't even go through the normal route through the UN. In the 1951 Refugee Convention, there was a special exception made for that not to apply to Palestinians. So they have to basically be referred by an outside agency. We've taken fewer than 600 Palestinians into the United States through the refugee program in the last 10 years. So a much smaller amount, a much tougher hill to climb for them. But now if you're Israeli living in a different part of the world, or certainly if you're an American, that would obviously make travel, at least the eligibility for travel, much easier. And the Israeli visa waiver program applies to Israeli citizens and Israeli nationals, regardless of where they're living. But yes, for people who are in Gaza right now, you previously laid out how hard it is to leave from there, especially for people who are wounded. We keep trying to figure out what's happening with Egypt to see if that border crossing into Rafah might be open, but really hard for anyone in that area right now. And this program is really just to help Israelis.
Julia Ainsley, as always, thanks for your reporting. We've got more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including new consequences for the 23-year-old Army private who ran across the North Korean border back in July. The charges he's now facing. Plus, third time's the charm. Does Congressman Jim Jordan have enough Republican support to take the House speakership? We'll take you to Washington to preview this morning's key vote up next. Welcome back. The 23-year-old U.S. soldier who dashed into North Korea over the summer and was later expelled from the country is now facing several charges. Travis King was taken into U.S. custody in neighboring China in September, 2 months after he ran across the South and North Korean border. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the details.
Hey there. Throughout Travis King's 2-month captivity in North Korea, the Department of Defense reiterated that his well-being and safe return to American soil was their top priority. Now, less than a month since his return, King is facing serious charges from the U.S. military.
This morning, new consequences for the American soldier who returned home last month after causing an international incident when he fled into North Korea. Travis King, the 23-year-old active duty soldier, spent 2 months in North Korean captivity after bolting across the border in July. He is now charged by the U.S. military with desertion. Documents obtained by NBC News show 8 counts against King, the others involving child pornography and striking other military personnel. King's July sprint across the border into North Korea came shortly after his release from a South Korean prison, where he served 48 days on charges that included damaging public property. He was due to fly back to the U.S. when he bolted while on a private group tour of the heavily fortified demilitarized zone separating North and South. His capture in North Korea put the U.S. in a delicate position as tensions with the isolated country and its dictator, Kim Jong-un, remain high. But unlike past cases of U.S. prisoners held in North Korea, King was released without any U.S. concessions.
It's not what we would normally expect of North Korea. I think in the end, they interrogated him. They understood the circumstances under which he left, and they thought, we don't want him in the country. And so they let him go.
Little is known about how King was treated in North Korea, and he has not publicly explained his actions. As he waits now in pretrial confinement in Fort Bliss, Texas, his mother released a statement pleading, "I ask that my son be afforded the presumption of innocence."
Up until this announcement of charges, King had been receiving medical treatment at Joint Base San Antonio, where he was undergoing reintegration procedures. Back to you.
All right, Stephanie Gosk, thank you so much. Well, police say a Maryland Circuit Court judge was shot dead in the driveway of his home last night. Washington County Sheriff's Office said 52-year-old Judge Andrew Wilkinson was found with apparent gunshot wounds. They said he later died at the hospital from his injuries. Police are currently investigating the incident as a homicide. Well, there's an unexpected development in one of the legal cases against former President Donald Trump. Yesterday, one of his former attorneys changed her plea to guilty, admitting her role in an effort to overturn the results of the 2020 election in Georgia. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the details.
Hey there. Well, for the first time in any of the criminal cases the former president faces, prosecutors have now managed to flip someone closely involved in his efforts to stay in office after he lost that last election. And she could have a lot to say.
This morning, one of Donald Trump's fiercest defenders, now a likely witness against him in Georgia.
How do you plead to the 6 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties? Guilty.
Sidney Powell sitting in court Thursday, admitting to her role in trying to overturn the 2020 election results, becoming the second person to plead guilty in the sprawling case against the former president and more than a dozen others.
Here to testify truthfully against any and all co-defendants in this matter at any upcoming proceedings.
That testimony potentially explosive, as court documents outline key dates Powell met with Mr. Trump as a member of his legal team, including a December 2020 showdown in the Oval Office where he weighed seizing voting machines. Prosecutors say the former president floated naming her as special counsel to investigate voter fraud. Even as congressional testimony reveals, he privately dismissed her election fraud claims as, quote, crazy.
What we are really dealing with here and uncovering more by the day is the massive influence of communist money through Venezuela, Cuba, and likely China.
Powell routinely pushing such wild conspiracy theories about the election on TV.
I'm going to release the Kraken.
She didn't. Instead, admitting in open court she helped orchestrate a brazen breach of voting equipment in Coffee County after the election, forced to now apologize to the voters of Georgia and hand over documents as part of this new plea deal with prosecutors. The terms of that deal not lost on Mr. Trump's 2024 opponents.
You don't get 6 years probation and no jail time because you don't have good information.
Meantime, a criminal defense lawyer for the former president is saying this is actually a good thing for his defense strategy. It's unclear how. Meantime, one of his co-defendants scheduled to go to trial starting today.
All right, Laura, thank you so much. Well, Canada withdrew dozens of diplomats and their families from India as tensions escalate over the death of a Sikh activist. NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lavanga has the latest on that and other international news for us as well. Hey, Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. That's right. Canada has withdrawn 41 diplomats and their families from India after New Delhi threatened to revoke their diplomatic immunity. Now, this fallout stems from the death of a Canadian citizen and Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was gunned down by two attackers in British Columbia. Canadian leader Justin Trudeau says the killing was potentially linked to agents in the Indian government. But India denies those claims, calling them absurd and motivated. Now let's fly over to the UK, where Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party has suffered a major setback overnight, losing two special elections. The opposition Labour Party picked up both seats in Parliament that were being contested, overturning big Conservative majorities. It increases pressure on Sunak, whose party continues to be well behind Labour in the polls. He must call an election in the next 15 months. And we end our international tour of the world with a story that's out of this world. Literally, an 8-billion-year-old radio signal just reached Earth. Astronomers are saying this mysterious burst is one of the most ancient and distant radio wave bursts of its kind that we have ever seen. Well, I think it's safe to say that signal has more than a few grey hairs then. Where radio telescopes in Western Australia helped astronomers trace those cosmic flashes. Dr. Stuart Ryder, an astronomer at the University of Australia, says their team even used an extra-large telescope in Chile to trace the source of that burst to a group of galaxies that are in the process of merging and even forming new stars. Scientists say this could help astronomers solve that burning mystery of our universe's missing matter. Savannah?
Wow. I liked the gray hair joke, Claudio. It got a laugh out of me. Thank you so much. Well, a third round of voting is planned for today on Capitol Hill in the ongoing effort to elect a new Speaker of the House of Representatives. Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan says he's still in the running for the speakership, despite failing in his first two attempts to win the gavel. It remains unclear if he will have the 217 votes needed to be elected today when he gives it a shot. NBC News senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Hake is following the latest, joins us now from Washington. Garrett, good morning. So what do we know here? Are his chances any better this morning than they have been the last two times?
Savannah, that was a more generous introduction for Jim Jordan's chances today than I probably would have given him. This seems to go from bad to worse for him. We were supposed to see this third vote yesterday. The plans for that fell through. The backup plan for when that didn't happen fell through. And this morning, Jordan held a news conference in which he vowed to fight on, but said little about what his strategy would be. Here's what he told reporters just a few minutes ago.
I think the American people are thirsty for change. I think they are hungry for leadership. And frankly, they know that the White House can't provide it. In short, we need to get to work for the American people. We need to do what we said we were going to do. We need to do what we told them we were going to do when they elected us and put us in office. And frankly, we can't do that if the House isn't open. And if we can't open the House until we get a speaker.
Savannah, that seems to be the long and short of the Jordan argument right now, is that the House needs to get to work, and to do that, they need a speaker, and I guess that should be him. He has done little to convince the 22 Republicans who opposed him on the last ballot to change their mind, and it's possible, in fact, I would say likely, that on this third ballot now he could lose even more support.
Yeah, that's what we saw happen between votes 1 and 2, right? Let's talk now about the interim speaker, North Carolina Congressman Patrick McHenry. So there's been some back and forth about the ability to give him more authority, something that he's opposed to without an explicit vote to do so. Walk us through this.
Yeah, look, Patrick McHenry hates this job. I mean, he's having like the least fun of anybody in Washington right now. He doesn't want to be in this interim position. And a lot of what we saw yesterday was a debate about what his powers actually are and what they could be. And what he has told other members, and what my colleague Scott Wan was able to scoop, was that if anybody basically suggests that he has more power than he's demonstrated right now and tries to push him to do it without doing a vote, he'd rather just resign than find himself in a constitutionally questionable position. Now, there is this discussion about whether a vote in the House, and I think this is constitutional, could give him more authority to conduct more of the business of the House going forward. There did seem to be some interest in that yesterday. Democrats were flirting with the idea of supporting it, but it doesn't appear to have the necessary support to get a majority in the House either, which means you kind of got to take McHenry off your board, at least for now, unless and until things get worse on the Republican side.
So you laid out that it's not likely that this morning Jordan is going to win and be gavelled in. Where do Republicans then turn next? Does this turn into what happened with McCarthy, where we just do this over and over and over again, or does this mean an alternative candidate comes forward?
I think I speak for everyone on Capitol Hill when I say I certainly hope not, but we really don't know. I mean, that's the problem right now. It's not clear that there is anyone in this Congress who can get 217 votes right now, at least not just with Republicans. I mean, as is always the case, and people sort of shout at their TV when they hear this, the bipartisan solution is the easier one, right? You could probably find a consensus candidate. It would probably be a Republican who could get over the hump with some Democratic help if they're willing to go that route. But there were several Republicans who said they'd rather have no Congress at all than a Congress controlled by a coalition government, and that's what they may end up with unless and until you know, people's partisan opinions start to mellow out a little bit.
And Garrett, last question: how happy are you it's Friday?
I'm like ready to jump out of this chair, but I don't think that would be appropriate during the segment.
I will release you, though I know you are not going far for the rest of the day. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Savannah.
Coming up, we talk a lot about how climate change impacts the warmer seasons, but what about winter? Well, don't worry, snow isn't going extinct anytime soon, but things will be different as temperatures change. We'll explain next. Welcome back. Yesterday, NOAA's Climate Prediction Center said it expects this winter to be unusually warm. It comes after recent winters where we've seen snowstorms in California, but then almost no snow in New York City. NBC climate reporter Chase Kane explains how climate change is impacting the season.
Winter brings skiing in the mountains, drinking water for the West, and a welcome break from oppressive heat in the South. But no matter where you live, it doesn't mean the winter is going extinct, but it is different. The first way is that winter is getting shorter and warmer. It's actually the fastest warming season by 3.3 degrees since 1970 across the U.S. From the Great Lakes to New England, it's up to 7 degrees hotter. In Miami, last winter was the second hottest on record, up nearly 9 degrees, which means there's less of a break from summertime heat.
Another big one out west is that if temperatures remain warmer longer into the year, and let's say we have precipitation not really kick in the early winter, that means you could extend the wildfire season out west. That combined with temperatures warming up earlier means that you might see less snowpack.
Second, overall snowfall drops, but big snowstorms remain.
We're getting a lot more rain during the winter times. A lot of those storms that were marginal and marginally snow are now marginally rain or ice instead of snowfalls.
That means fewer snowstorms, but when one does hit, it can dump more snow because a warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, more potential snow. That can amp up lake effect snow in Buffalo, monster mountain storms in California, and powerful nor'easters.
And you're getting these more ferocious storms that are coming down into our area as a result of climate change. So it's almost like a feast or famine type of situation.
Third, more extreme cold outbreaks. Remember what happened in Texas in 2021? Research suggests that was caused by the rapidly warming Arctic, which can weaken the polar jet stream.
When we have one of these very severe cold spells, it's because the jet stream is taking one of these big southward swings, and that allows the Arctic cold to penetrate much farther south than usual. And it's been demonstrated now in several studies that we are seeing these wavy patterns happen more often when the Arctic is very warm.
The bottom line is that climate change means we can no longer look to past winters to predict future winters. In New York, I'm national climate reporter Chase Kane.
Let's stay on this and get you a forecast check. While we'll be dealing with the rain in New York City, the whole western half of the country is in for a warm weekend. Angie, some areas hitting even the high 80s.
Yeah, and this is summer-like conditions that we're expecting in some of these spots, Savannah. Denver has been into the 80s for the last couple of days. Today will be no different. A high of 83 degrees, running almost 20 degrees above where they should be for this time of year. So a temperature closer to 62 is where they should be. Instead, they'll be well into the 80s. Wichita, similar story there. Lubbock heads to 87 degrees, and Phoenix, you're into the triple digits for the next couple of days too. That's just today. Notice what we look at as we get into tomorrow. It feels like summer once again for October in places like Dallas, into the low 90s for your Saturday plans, 93 in San Antonio. We'll see Denver finally get a break from the 80s into the upper 70s, but still running way warm for this time of year across most of this area, even as far east as Memphis and Baton Rouge, running well above normal. So the heat continues for folks there. Meanwhile, across parts of the Northeast, we'll see kind of a gradual warming happening. A little chilly on the backside of that system that's working through. But by the time we get to Monday in Cincinnati, we'll go from the 50s on Sunday to the mid-60s on Monday. Tuesday ends up to be into the mid-70s. You can see places like Washington, D.C., right where they should be, low to mid-60s. And then Boston ends up into those 50s for the extended period as we get into the early parts of next week. Now, I mentioned that system that's working through. This is the one that's really been a headache for a lot of folks across the Midwest and the Great Lakes through the past couple of days. Soggy conditions for sure. Now it's moving out of that region and into portions of the Northeast, and that's where we'll see the rainfall being an issue for our Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday plans in some spots. The farther north you go into New England, that's where you have the better chance of seeing the really heavy rainfall. I think places like New York, Washington, D.C., you'll kind of wrap up the rain for Saturday into the later parts of the day. You'll have some dry time there. Still be cloudy, but you'll get some drier skies. It's not over just yet, though. Notice that circulation brings some of that rain back around as the system exits. We're still going to see the heavy rain across those, again, that northern tier of New England. And more importantly, the blustery conditions will be around here as we go through the next couple of days, and the chilly conditions as well across the Northeast. So that's just something to give you a heads up about. You'll need the jackets for sure. And by the way, just a quick note, hurricane season's not over yet. Tropical Storm Tammy going strong and expected to impact folks across the Lesser Antilles and then eventually turn out to sea. So we'll watch for some heavy rainfall.
Tracking Tammy. There we go. All right, Angie, thank you so much.
No problem.
Coming up, a deeper look into the tumultuous life of Britney Spears in her own words as new details emerge on her conservatorship from that highly anticipated upcoming memoir. We've got more on that after this. Welcome back. Well, things might get a little stuffy with new concerns over some common decongestants on the shelves at places like CVS. CNBC's Pippa Stevens has the details on that and other financial news. Hey, Pippa, good morning.
Hey, Savannah. U.S. pharmacy chain CVS announced that it's pulling some of the most common decongestants off its shelves. The move comes after a panel of advisors raised doubts over the efficacy of the ingredient phenylephrine. Last month, the panel refused to back the effectiveness of oral over-the-counter medicines made with the same ingredient. CVS says that other oral cough and cold products will continue to be offered to meet consumer needs. Meantime, Coinbase Chief Legal Officer Paul Grewal says he's confident that a U.S. Bitcoin exchange-traded fund will be approved by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. But he didn't say when that's likely to happen and added the caveat that any decision would ultimately be up to the SEC. The SEC was recently dealt a major court setback when a judge ruled that the regulator had no basis to deny digital asset management Grayscale's bid to turn its huge GPTC Bitcoin fund into an ETF. And Apple TV is pulling the plug on Jon Stewart's new political talk show. According to the New York Times, the cancellation came after creative differences between the tech giant and Stewart over potential topics and guests for The Problem. Stewart signed a multiple-year pact with Apple in 2020 that included the Current Affairs show that became The Problem and other projects. Savannah, back to you.
All right, Pippa, thank you so much. Well, this morning we are learning more about Britney Spears' life over the last 2+ decades from her perspective as more details leak out from her eagerly awaited memoir, The Woman in Me. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas has the details. Hey there, that 275-page memoir, a copy of which the New York Times was able to acquire and review, is scheduled to hit shelves on Tuesday. Now, in it, the 41-year-old pop icon talks about everything from her rise to stardom as a teen to her romantic life, her relationship with the press, and that 13-year conservatorship in which she says that she was powerless to make her own decisions.
It reads like a bad dream, a fairy tale turned nightmare.
Okay, guys, so my book, The Woman in Me, is coming out October 24th.
The Woman in Me is Britney Spears' personal accounting of her life from teen pop sensation to the horrors she says she endured during her 13-year conservatorship. From 2008 to 2021, her father, Jamie, was put in charge of her affairs. During that time, according to excerpts published by The Times, Spears describes a life of controlled manipulation. Too sick to choose my own boyfriend, and yet somehow healthy enough to appear on sitcoms and morning shows and to perform for thousands of people. And completely devoid of choice. They put parental controls on my iPhone. Everything was scrutinized and controlled. Everything. Of her father, she writes, he saw me as put on the earth for no other reason than to help their cash flow. In addition to the bombshell news of her pregnancy and abortion with then-boyfriend Justin Timberlake, Spears adds context to their breakup, which she says he initiated over text, saying that she was devastated, yet portrayed by the media as a harlot who'd broken the heart of America's golden boy, while in truth, she was comatose in Louisiana, and he was happily running around Hollywood. In the aftermath, Spears says that she was forced into an ill-fated interview with Diane Sawyer, in which she felt exploited, set up in front of the whole world.
You broke his heart. You did something that caused him so much pain, so much suffering. What did you do?
According to The Times, that interview, Spears says, was a breaking point. She also says that her portrayal as a party girl was overblown. It was never as wild as the press made it out to be, that she didn't like hard drugs and never had a drinking problem. Spears also shares insights into her mental state during some of her most erratic behavior. In the throes of severe postpartum depression, abandonment by my husband, the torture of being separated from my 2 babies, the death of my adored Aunt Sandra, and the constant drumbeat of pressure from paparazzi, I began to think in some ways like a child. Now, this memoir, Spears says, is all a part of her finding the woman in her.
We have reached out to both Jamie Spears and Justin Timberlake's camps. Now, Jamie Spears declined to comment, and People magazine is now reporting that Timberlake, via sources, is, quote, happy at home with Jess and their kids, and he's focusing on new music. Back to you. All right. Wow, Chloe, thank you very much. Well, coming up, it's been a bit of a bleak news week, so we're going to close out the hour, something on the lighter side. Puppies, children, need I say more? That's up next. Welcome back. If you're a parent and you're looking to give your child a phone for the first time, there are alternatives to smartphones that they can get their hands on. As NBC News technology correspondent Jake Ward explains, some of these alternatives can also give parents the power to keep a closer eye on what their kids are up to.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. My wife and I are parents to 10 and 12-year-old daughters, and I became part of a group a couple of years ago at my school that put together a school-wide pledge among parents that we would not give smartphones to our kids until high school at the very earliest. But my 12-year-old is beginning to make friends outside of school through camp and through sports, and we wanted to have, you know, the kind of independence that allows her to go from place to place on her own from time to time. And so then you need a phone. So you begin thinking about what are the alternatives to a traditional smartphone, because in my beat, I know all about the kind of dangers that can come with a smartphone for kids. So we started looking at things like the light phone, which is what we ended up going with. That, in the end, was the best choice because it offered the text and talk possibilities. It has a little bit of music. It has some maps. It has a calendar on it. but it doesn't have a camera. That, for me, is the bright red line. I won't let my kids have a camera that's connected to the internet and on them all the time. I'll buy them a camera, no problem, but they need to go through the process of connecting it before I'd feel comfortable about it. For those of you, though, who maybe already have a kid on a smartphone, there are a number of apps out there like Bark and Bright Canary that are there to help you monitor the usage of your smartphone by your kid. Now, I would point out this is really fraught in a lot of ways. You need, for instance, to get buy-in from your kid on the idea, be totally transparent that you are going to be watching that phone. Don't be sneaky about it. Nothing ruins a relationship with a child like being sneaky around that kind of thing. So whether you're looking for an alternative to a traditional smartphone, that's the way we went in our family, or you've got one already and you need to monitor it a little bit better, you should know, right, the average age that American kids are getting phones right now is 12, but I think all of us could do a much better, more thoughtful job of choosing the technology that we put in their hands. Savannah?
Jake Ward, really, really great tips and ideas there. Thank you so much. Well, we end this hour and this week with an adorable story. Get this, first graders that get to go to school every day with puppies. I'd like to go to work every day with puppies. It sounds like it could be a little chaotic, right? Well, the dynamic seems to be working for them, and the pups are actually even helping the kids learn, they say. Weekend Today anchor Peter Alexander brings us this story.
How you doing? That's what it started morning up.
So it's not exactly your normal school greeting, but at Hanby Elementary in Wilmington, Delaware, it's just the way Brooke Hughes' first graders like it.
I'm a puppy.
Hughes has always been an animal lover, and after fostering several puppies during the pandemic, a light bulb went off.
What did the school say when you said, so I have an idea, I want to bring puppies to the classroom?
Right. There was a lot of questions. But they said, after I kept telling all the research about how dogs and puppies, can increase, productivity and mental health, they said, all right, you get one day.
That one day turned into the rest of the school year and the beginning of Foster Tales Puppy Therapy, a program Hughes created that she says has changed how her students learn.
We've seen a benefit in their reading scores, because if they have puppy time, if the puppies are asleep, they have to read to them. And so their reading confidence has soared. And kids that were hesitant to pick up a book and read, they couldn't wait to read to a puppy.
These days, these first graders' classmates include a pair of 8-week-old Husky Pit Bull mixes, Kelsey and Graham, fittingly a tribute to their favorite Philadelphia Eagles players, not far away. Hughes brings Kelsey and Graham home every night, but during the days, they've taught these kids to do more than just cuddle and play.
The empathy with each other and the patience with each other, I've seen that being a huge growth since before we had puppies. Every morning they have to do a little check-in. How are you feeling today? This year, almost every day, they start really excited, and I say, how are you feeling today? Like, I'm excited because I get to come to school with puppies and you.
As a teacher, you can't ask for a lot more.
I can't ask for it. I mean, I think my #1 job as a teacher in this grade is to make school fun, make learning fun. The rest will come.
And it's coming quick. Just look at the poster Sydney made.
Will you read it for me?
Okay. Adopt a dog because they are playful and they like treats and they like naps.
They do like naps. 20 puppies have now come through Hughes' classroom before finding their forever homes.
Lincoln, why do we want these puppies to be adopted?
So they can have a home.
We want them to find a home forever, right?
And this video she posted of her kids and the puppies bonding went viral with nearly 3 million views.
People lost their TikTok minds.
Yeah. And I had no idea it was going to blow up.
Why do you think it resonated?
I think seeing the joy that the kids had, and they fell in love with kids reading to them, of course.
That puppy love has helped all of her students, including Logan, who is mostly nonverbal and uses this device to communicate.
I like to read to Kelsey and Graham.
He just came out of his shell.
He came out of his shell, but he also taught us that he knows more than we knew. He was reading an above grade level book to the puppies.
Wow.
Good
job. Good job. Woof.
It's not just the kids that benefit, but the puppies too.
If they weren't here, they would be in a cage most of the day at the shelter. And here they're being socialized. They're learning all kinds of different sights and sounds and smells.
Socialization for the puppies.
Oh, yeah.
Learning for the kids.
Yep.
I mean, who wouldn't want to learn like this?
It's hard not to love adorable puppies, right? Are you being adorable?
Are you being adorable, Graham? Oh, whoa, Bumble. Are you trying to? Whoa, that was a French one.
Okay, is anybody else just dying to hold a puppy right now? Peter Alexander, thank you so much for that adorable story and a little uplift on a Friday. We'll get this. Here's even more good news. A quick update. Kelsey and Graham have now been adopted. The kids will definitely miss their friends, but Miss Hughes tells us this week she picked up 3 teeny corgi mixes that will be heading to the classroom soon. How fun is this? A rotating door of little dogs for that classroom. Amazing. Maybe more classrooms will take it up. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now, but stay with us because the news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.